Well, hello, my friends. I am here to show you a really cool thing that I just discovered, making homemade paper the easiest way I've seen in all the videos I've watched, which is probably less than, a couple of hundred, or maybe not. Maybe I've watched that many videos. But anyway, this is the easiest way that I've seen and heard. I've heard it's very hard in some ways, it can be sticky if you use Mod Podge. This is homemade paper that I made last night. I think it took me all of about 10 minutes to make this huge old piece of paper that you can't even see the end of. This sheet was way too big. I should make smaller sheets so that they're easier to work with. But anyway, this, it was my first time, so I made a couple. This one, I'm kind of happy with. This is what I made with them. You can make a lot of things with homemade paper. I've seen a lot of really neat things. There was this one lady that in swaps, she sent me just circles of homemade paper, and it was really cool. So I've just used it for little teeny journal covers, and I forget what these binding things are called, but this is where the signature slips in and out. I cut coffee dyed paper the size of a square of material that I just cut, and I made one signature to fit in here and tied it, and there's a little insert to go in a journal or a swap or, a rack or a gift, anything that you want to do. I used a Two Sister Tiny right here. And this is just a piece of lace that I tied here. Now I tied this lace. It's kind of stretchy lace, so it stretches when you pull on it. But this one, I did the same thing. I cut the piece of paper that I didn't even measure. I just cut a piece of paper that looked like the size I wanted. And then I cut coffee dyed papers. You could use tea dyed papers or ledgers or whatever you want to put in your signature. But again, in one signature thing, you could do more than one signature. This one I stapled. And can you see the staple? There's the staple. And then on the back side, I put washi tape to cover up the staple. And a tiny, and I just wrapped a piece of lace around it to keep it together. And I did cut these, and the video I watched of the lady making this, her channel is called Chasing Paper, and I'll go get the link to her video, and I'll link it here in the description of this one. And she used those tearing rulers to tear the edges, and I don't have any tearing rulers, so I used my scissors here because I wanted the edges, to look homemade too. And I used the heart line, and I went over and over it so you can't really tell it's a heart line on the edge. Maybe some of you can if you know what the scissors look like. But anyway, that's how I did this, and I did the same edging on this one. Now if you want it, see, I didn't even ink these yet because I was so anxious to get to making a video to show you. But you could ink them to age them. I probably will ink the edges on this and maybe stamp the inside here because it's just white. So anyway, let's get right to showing you how to make this paper, and you can do lots and lots of things with the paper. Okay, so this is the piece of paper that I made, and I certainly am going to make lots of different things with this paper because I just love homemade paper. I just think it's just beautiful, and I've been in awe of the people who could make it. And now I can make it's just kind of like faux homemade paper because we're going to use freezer paper. any kind of freezer paper that you want. Just rip out a piece. You know, be very careful. The cutter thing is right here, and yes, the first time I reached in here to pull out some paper, I did cut my finger. So be very careful. It's real good for cutting through skin. Okay, and you want to pull out any size paper, any size piece that you want. And there's a shiny side and a not so shiny side. Put the shiny side up. That's the side with the wax on it. That's the side we're going to use. So now since it rolls, you're going to need to put something on just the corners, just to keep it down for just a little bit. And we're going to need a piece of parchment paper. I got this parchment paper at the Dollar Tree, $1.25 tree, but anyway. And make it about the size of your freezer paper. And we're going to set that aside. We'll use that here in a minute. While I'm doing this, my iron is getting hot. I've got my iron set to the highest setting. Mine goes to 6 and no steam. I don't have any water in mine, so I can't really tell if it's on steam or not, but you don't need steam. And you need a piece of tissue paper. And that's about all you need, besides the little things that we're going to put in it. So the tissue paper, about the size of your freezer paper. This is my freezer paper that rolled up. See, I don't have the corners held down. Okay, there. And then I got, here's a thing of glue up there, and this. Okay, so this is just regular old tissue paper. If you have tissue paper with, you know, a little bit of a design in it, you could use that too. And then I just crinkled up the tissue paper, make it the same size as your freezer paper, and crinkle it up. And, you know, being careful not to rip it. Although I haven't tried it with rips, that might add some extra dimension and texture and interest. Okay, so set this aside for now. Just set it aside for now. And remember, our iron is warming up. So to make this homemade paper, we're going to use, I'm going to start out with some stamps. Now, I don't have any leaf stamps. The channel called Chasing Paper used leaves, a couple of different leaves, and they were really cute. So I went into I'm not using the heart. You could use the heart, I guess. But I went into my stamp stash and just got what I had. So just get whatever you want. I got some little blobs and a little seaweed looking leaf here. Now I used these same stamps with that paper that I used before, only I used black ink, and I was kind of unhappy with the black ink. So I'm going to try photo, vintage photo ink. So let me put my glasses on so I can actually see what I'm doing. I don't know, this is just some sort of a random blobby thing here. I'm just going to stamp it in some random patterns around here with this vintage photo. And notice I'm not being real careful, but you keep turning your stamp so nothing looks planned, or so that it doesn't look like it was meant to be that way. And this one is just, I don't know, to me it looks like a piece of seaweed or a piece of grass. I'm not sure if it has a name on it. If it does, it's too small for me to read. So just a couple of those. And this one is just some splattered dots, I think. Yeah, that one might be a snowflake in there, but they're going to be so small that we won't be able to tell. Okay, just a couple of these. Yeah, the more I look, the more I like that seaweed thing. I'm going to put a couple more seaweed things in here. And I like to get them all the way out to the edge. Maybe not the corners, because we got the corners holded down. Okay, and that's about it. That's all I'm going to do. I didn't cover the whole thing. I just randomly put some here and there. And the next thing we're going to do is take crayons. Now, I just have a cheapo thing of crayons, and I have taken 3 colors, and I've used earthy tones. Chasing Paper, the YouTube channel Chasing Paper said to use 3 or 4 colors. I just used these 3 colors. You know, and eventually maybe I'll try using colors like shades of blue or shades of pink. So on this box, I have a sharpener. So you just want to sharpen some of the crayon because we're going to scatter these around on the paper. Now, she said on the channel Chasing Paper, she said, if you use big chunks, you won't be happy. And I can see why in my making that other one. Yeah, you don't want big chunks because the goal of this is to trap, see, crayons are wax. Trap all this wax between the freezer paper and the tissue paper. And seriously, it's going to look like homemade paper. Now see, I saved all the shavings, and now I'm just going to sprinkle them around. And the big ones, I am, you know, crushing them between my fingers so that they get smaller. Because when we get all done here, we're going to iron this. And these shavings and the stamps. And we're going to put some coffee grounds here on it here in a second when we get done with the crayons. The channel Chasing Paper used, let's see, is that it? The channel Chasing Paper used tea grounds, but I drink coffee, so I have coffee grounds. And in fact, and that may be all I'm going to use. You don't want to overload it because I overloaded one and it looked okay, but I would rather not overload it. Okay, so that's all the crayon shavings I've got. That's all that I really want to use. And then, see, here's some big ones. I'm going to crush those up. And then she took coffee grounds, or tea grounds actually. Can you see this little bowl here? I have a Keurig. So I don't know if you noticed, but if you take the pod, a Keurig pod, after you've brewed your coffee, you got to let it cool down because it gets really, really hot on your fingers. So this is 2 pods, and this is just what I ripped out of there. These are kind of like tea bags. So I'm going to wash these and use these in something else. These are just the bag that held onto the grounds. So these grounds have dried. And I'm just going to sprinkle some coffee grounds around. Now I may have too many. They're kind of dark there. I don't know. This is the first time I've used coffee grounds. I didn't use any grounds in the last paper that I made because I got home from dancing and I was just too excited. I saw this video and I thought, oh, I got to try that. It's too cool. So, but I didn't have time to wait for my coffee grounds to cool and dry. So anyway, okay, so that's my paper. Now we're going to take the YouTube channel Chasing Paper also cut up pieces of plastic shopping bag, little teeny pieces of plastic shopping bag. So I guess the more you've got in here, you know, the more homemade it looks. But this is what I'm going to start with for now. So I'm going to put this on top of my freezer paper, and this is going to actually adhere to the freezer paper, and it's going to make this layer of homemade paper on this side. So see the potential for how easy it's going to be? No glue, no Mod Podge, no fancy machines that chop up your paper. No, none of that. So let's get the iron and start ironing. Although we got to put the parchment paper down. Now the parchment paper, there's a shiny side and a not shiny side. And I always have a hard time figuring out which side is which. I think the shiny side needs to go down. On this parchment paper, see how it rolls? It came off the roll like this. So the outside is the shiny side. I don't know if parchment paper is all rolled the same. So just take a look at your parchment paper and put the shiny side down next to your tissue paper. And once we get a little bit of this iron, then we can take the corners off. Now, where's my iron? Here's my iron. It's been warming up to the hottest temperature. Yes, hottest temperature. And we're just going to slowly iron around here and melt the crayons and the waxy part of the freezer paper, actually to the tissue paper. Yeah, see, I've got a big glob here. I can tell because I tried to run my iron over it and it chunked, you know, it hiccuped over the glob. Okay, so I need to get some over here in this corner so that the corner will lay down. Just you gotta go over it kind of slow enough for that heat to melt everything. Now I have a plastic tablecloth, so I've got to be very careful not to get this iron outside of my parchment paper on the plastic tablecloth, because that could be a mess on my iron for sure. Okay. Can you already see how it's melting? Melting the tissue paper to the freezer paper. It's so cool. When you get all totally done, you can look at it and say, that's homemade paper and I made it. Oh, it is really awesome. Really cool. Something's on my iron cord there. It's so cool. I have looked at people's homemade paper projects and they're just beautiful. So I would try different, if you're going to try this, yes, if you're going to try it, leave me a comment and say, yes, I love this project. I'm going to try it. Because I'll tell you, I have seen so many people make beautiful things with their homemade paper. And the last lady that I talked to about homemade paper, she said, oh yeah, it's real easy if you have all the tools. You know, a paper grinder, and then you got to have a paper squeezer to squeeze all the liquid out. Then you got to have some sort of a drying mechanism. Well, so I also heard that there's an easier method, but it like uses Mod Podge. Well, how much easier than Mod Podge is this? I love the idea of this. It's awesome. I love the coffee ground look in there. So I can also see the benefit of putting a plastic grocery bag in there. Although my plastic grocery bags in this area are getting really scarce. So, but, you know, what I just said, I got to be careful of my plastic tablecloth. You could cut up, like if you have a plastic tablecloth that's ripped, just this is just a cheapo Dollar Tree plastic tablecloth. I bet that would work, because because the goal of this is just to melt all of this plastic, the wax and the plastic together to make this paper. And once it gets done, I promise you, it looks like homemade paper. I can't even really see the coffee grounds in there. Maybe that's what I'm feeling. Maybe that's what's chunking around. Well, what happened over here? Oh, my cord got stuck on it. So, okay, there's my parchment paper. I'm done with my parchment paper. Oh, I see what happened. It did. It got on my tablecloth. So it actually ironed the tissue paper to my tablecloth. So you want to be careful if you got a plastic tablecloth. Oh, can you see this? Can you? Oh, yes. And if you try this, see the coffee grounds, see how dark they looked in the beginning, and they just kind of meshed in with the paper look. So if you do try this, please send me a picture. I'd like to see all the different kinds of and different things that, different options that you try. Now, where's my scissors here? This is what I did. Well, I didn't lose my scissors the first time, I'll tell you that. But all I did was I took my scissors and I cut around, I cut around the edge, because that makes it look like sheets of homemade paper. But if you have a tearing ruler, you could also do that. Around, I didn't get it all the way to the edge over here, but that's the idea. And then in order to make your project or whatever, you just use this just like any other paper. You measure whatever you want, whatever project you want to use, and just cut whatever size paper you want to use. And you can rip it like that if you want. Where did my little things go? I do not, I might have some tearing rulers somewhere, but I certainly can't find them. So, these are the projects. So far, I've only made these two, but I love them. I just love them. I only made the covers, but because this side is the clear side of the freezer paper, you could use this for your inside pages too. Just cut multiple sheets of whatever size you want your project to be, and just make a whole little journal out of this. But I just love this homemade paper look, and we did it. So if you like this, give this video a thumbs up and leave me a comment. Let me know you're here. Let me know if you want to try this, or if you think this is a dumb idea, or what other items you would put in it. Now, the video channel Chasing Paper also said you could try using tissue paper that had leaves in it. I've seen tissue paper with leaves. You could try that too. Okay, well, anyway, that's basically how to make this real easy homemade paper. And see, this is the paper that we made. And it's all adhered, and all this stuff is, if you look, you can see the stamps that we put in there, but they're really not very recognizable in with all of the other melted stuff in here. But how cool is this to make your own homemade paper? Okay, go try this project, and thank you for watching.